What's up you guys, welcome back to my channel, welcome back to another video. Today is going to be a kind of informative Q&A, but not quite a Q&A because you guys have asked me the question, but I've kind of made it so that you're asking me only about a specific thing. So basically, I wanted to make a video for a long time, kind of refreshing if you're new here, or just giving a bit more of an in-depth perspective of what actually happened during my fitness transformation. And I thought it would maybe be better if I actually asked you guys, what do you want to know? So I popped a box up on my Instagram today, and I've sat here for a few hours before I pressed record because I wanted to make sure there are a good few questions there. I have then made a shortlist of the most common questions that have come up, and I'm just gonna give you all the juicy details, so it's gonna be good. Okay, so I'm gonna go into the first question, but before I do, I thought I'd actually just show you guys the picture that I posted on my Instagram last night, which is what has kind of sparked a lot of these questions about how I actually achieved this, what actually went down. So now you've seen that, you've got a bit more context of maybe where some of these questions have come from if you haven't seen that initial kind of like transformation. So question number one is, what was the biggest failure and biggest success of your journey so far? I love this question. So I think my biggest failure at the beginning was probably this pressure that I put myself to be perfect. So this pressure to have everything figured out, get everything right, the perfect training plan, the perfect macro split, the perfect everything from the beginning, and that's just not a reality, and that's equally not how you learn and not how you grow. I think I spiraled into a bit of a headspace where I just used so much energy focusing on how I could try and get things right and what every perfect calculation and exercise and everything was, when actually part of getting things right is about getting things wrong. That's where you learn, that's where you grow, that's how you develop. And I think just not being scared of making those failures, because ultimately those failures and those things that I've done wrong have actually probably taught me more than things that I got right. So yeah, just I would say my biggest kind of failure at the beginning was almost being afraid to fail. When it comes to my biggest success, I actually think this one is harder to answer as one specific thing, because I think it wasn't just one thing. It is a result of kind of like an accumulation of lots of tiny good and right things which have then stacked up together to make something bigger, to work towards that bigger goal, rather than kind of like pinning it on one specific thing. It's more that amalgamation of all of that together. But if I was to really challenge myself to say one thing, it probably would be consistency. Consistently showing up in whatever way I can, every day, every week, every year. Again, I think this comes back to that pressure of being afraid of getting things wrong and afraid of always having to be 100%, because if you release that pressure, as I said, it allows you to consistently accept whatever is happening and to consistently keep showing up in whatever way you can that day. Some days that's going to be 10%, some days that's going to be 110%, but what matters is that you're consistently showing up every single day, good days, bad days, and every other day in between. Okay, next question. How long was it before you really started noticing changes? This is probably one of the most common questions, and look, I get it. You want to know how long until you get to where you want to be, but honestly, one of the biggest mistakes is focusing, I think, too much on what that end result is and doing whatever you can to get there as quick as you can. I know before I started this journey, I was spiraled into a very negative place with health and fitness. I was doing all sorts of fads and quick fixes and basically just looking for short-term solutions that were going to yield me long-term results. And it just doesn't work. That sentence does not add up, okay? I'm also gonna say that I think it is very different for everybody. It depends what your starting point is. It depends on all sorts of factors, okay? And it's also not gonna be helpful for you to get hung up on how quick somebody else is moving versus how quick you're moving, because it's your journey at your pace. With that being said, if I'm being totally honest about mine, I think I definitely saw a considerable change in the first 12 weeks. So after a 12-week kind of like consistent block of getting my head around everything, I definitely saw quite a lot of changes come quite quickly at that point. That being said, that process has not stopped. Even though I'm 2.5 years into this journey, I'm still changing, I'm still growing, I'm still learning every single day, okay? So that's what I mean about not obsessing over something happening in 12 weeks or in 6 months or whatever it is, and just trying as hard as it is to just have that bigger picture and break things down into micro goals to help you get there. Okay, what were your first steps or changes you made? Did you follow a program? Okay, so at the start, I actually followed a program which my husband, Will, who is a sports scientist, wrote for me. He still does my training now, and with that though, I would say that I spent a lot of time playing around. I spent a lot of time finding what I enjoyed and trying to find my flow and kind of find my feet with my training. And I think that is really important at all stages, to be open to different styles of training and to be okay and prepared to try something and see if you like it. But equally, I think that at a base level, having a training plan, a structured plan to follow is incredibly valuable, and I would recommend it to every single beginner. It gives you that consistency, but not only that, it gives you that education. Somebody else helps educate you on how to structure your week of workouts, how to actually work towards the goals you're working towards, and how to do it safely, in a healthy way, and in a way that ultimately is going to make you feel good, make you feel strong. There are just so many benefits of getting someone who is educated to help you. So that might be one-on-one coaching. I now do one-on-one coaching with some of you lovely lot, which has been an incredible experience. Or it might be that you use a guide from somebody, or you just do your own research and learn and try and put something together yourself. But having some kind of structure and plan which is generated from that point of knowledge and education and science is incredibly valuable to make sure you're doing the right things and you're training smart and you're training well. That is ultimately why I created the Empower training guides, because I wanted to literally do that. I wanted to empower you with that education. It's not just about a cookie cutter 12-week plan. It is literally about empowering you with all of that upfront knowledge about why you're doing what you're doing, so that after that 12-week block, you don't just feel like you had 12 weeks of good workouts, you actually feel like you learned a lot, which is what's going to help you grow, and it's what's going to help you get better. In terms of other first steps, I think I'm probably going to get onto this a little bit later because there are a lot of questions about diet and stuff. But obviously another first step was to figure out what my total daily energy expenditure was, which then gave me my calorie goal, my macro target, all of that type of stuff. So I knew that I was fueling myself in the right way for my goals and just undoing a lot of that previous learned behavior about foods and stuff, and just stripping things right back to literally just education and science. At the time, I just used online calorie calculators to do that, but now I've got more of an understanding of the actual science and equations behind those calculators. I just go straight to that. So I just go straight to the education and science kind of source, figure out what my total daily energy expenditure is, and then factor that. So obviously if I'm looking to lose weight, I'd be in a slight calorie deficit from that. If I'm looking to gain weight or muscle, I'd be in a slight surplus. If I'm looking to be somewhere in the middle, I would just eat around that, okay? So it's just kind of figuring that out at the beginning and literally just getting started and having a play. Like I said, I got very hung up on trying to be perfect and trying to have the ideal numbers, but honestly, it's just about starting, seeing how you respond, and learning from there. Okay, what are the main differences in your diet between the left and right picture? Protein intake. Okay, so there is a huge difference between my diet in these two pictures. The me before basically had no idea of how fuel, food, energy, anything works, okay? I literally just thought that it was about trying to eat as little as I could and depriving myself of foods I love, doing everything from skinny teas, fad diets, bikini body plans, literally you name it, and I guarantee I did it, okay? And versus the me now, which everything that I have done and which has got me the results has all been backed by science and education, okay? There's no good or bad foods, there's no rules, there's no restriction. Yes, I use tracking to do that, but I use that as a tool, and I use it because it educated me, and it does still educate me, and it helps me make sure I'm eating enough and giving my body the fuel that it needs to actually perform in the way that I want it to and to work towards those goals. Okay, this is kind of similar. How do you track your macros so you know how much you're eating to cut or gain? In terms of what I actually use to track, I use my Fitness Pal, which is just a tool. There are obviously lots of different apps out there. I've always used my Fitness Pal. But one thing I would say is that I don't let it rule my world, okay? I don't live my life through those numbers 24/7, all day, every day, okay? I use it as a tool to empower me, not a rule book to restrict me, okay? It's a little quote for you there, but honestly, I always say that because it is so true. I really don't obsess over days being perfect. I tend to look at weekly averages because I think it is a much healthier way to look at things, because it allows you to eat flexibly within that week, depending on, you might be hungrier some days, you might be less hungry other days, but ultimately over the course of the week you're still averaging out and giving yourself the right amount of fuel that you need. I also just think it taught me so much about food. It removed all of those emotional barriers around I can only have bad food at the weekend, because I just started to see food as food and food as fuel, which is going to help me perform. So I think it definitely unpicked a lot of that emotional baggage for me personally. I also think that when you've had a considerable amount of time tracking, you tend to build up those habits and behaviors, and you have that education that you don't need to track all the time, because you have a very built-in knowledge around portion size and about what is actually in food. So I feel like that education carries you through whether or not you continue tracking or not. When it comes to knowing how much to actually have, I think I kind of covered that in the last question, but yeah, basically figuring out what my total daily energy expenditure is. So this literally takes into account everything from your age, your height, your weight, your activity level, as well as combining everything that you are literally burning by just living and breathing and being your amazing self, and then just factoring that based on my goals. So like I said, I would be in a calorie deficit, so slightly below that if I was looking to lose fat, slightly above that if I was looking to gain, and somewhere in the middle if I was just hanging out in the middle. Okay, can you get results without tracking? I feel like I get too obsessive with the numbers. Okay, this is a great question, and honestly I feel like this comes up a lot, particularly because I feel like there are two camps around people that track and people that don't, and I do feel like I kind of float somewhere in the middle, because whilst I personally have had an incredible positive experience with tracking, I totally get that there are people that haven't had that and that it isn't for everyone. What I would say though is that having that understanding of what your body needs in terms of fuel is key, okay? So whether or not you then choose to log and track to make sure you're actually achieving that is up to you, but actually just having that understanding of what your body needs in terms of fuel, I think is really important, and then you can try and eat flexibly or intuitively towards that, track whatever feels good, but I think knowing where you need to be and what your body needs is key. Okay, how did you change your mindset to eat more calories? I'm so scared. Now, again, this question comes up a lot, particularly when I do what I eat in a day videos, where you guys ask, how are you able to eat so much? I can't eat as much as that, or all of this stuff. Firstly, let me just say everyone is different, okay? So what I can eat will be different to what you can eat, and vice versa. We're all different. We'll have different bodies, different needs, different goals, etc. But I really think this ladders back up to some of the things I've been saying earlier, in that education is literally key. That is what will empower you. Knowing and understanding how much your body needs is what will empower you to realize that it is fuel, and your body literally needs it to perform well and to reach those goals, okay? The other thing that I will say is that if, like me, you are in a bit of a cycle where you're eating only 1200 calories Monday to Friday because you're trying to be good and you're on a diet or whatever it is, and then come the weekend you feel so deprived and restricted that you end up having huge blowouts, over the course of the week, your weekly average, which then comes down to a daily average, I guarantee will be a lot higher than what you think it is. So it will be higher than what those 1200 calories are that you think you're eating. So actually, that number that you kind of get from figuring out your total daily expenditure might not be as scary when you actually maybe figure out truthfully what that daily intake is that you're currently eating. Okay, did you struggle with exercises at the beginning? How did you move past it? Honestly, absolutely 100% yes, and I wish I could stress this more. I know how difficult it is to watch other people do things amazingly, do incredibly heavy squats with amazing depth, be able to bang out body weight press ups like there's no tomorrow, chin ups, you name it. I know how intimidating it can feel to watch that, and then to actually feel yourself perform in the gym and you're like, I am nowhere near this. How am I ever going to be able to do that? Honestly, one of the biggest turning points for me was literally realizing that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what anybody else is doing. What matters is what you're doing, okay? What matters is your progress. You're showing up every single day to do that workout because you're doing it to get a tiny bit better for you, okay? That is all that it's about. So it doesn't matter what I'm doing. It doesn't matter what the next person's doing. As long as you are progressing and it's improvement for you, then that's what's important, okay? So my biggest advice would be to, instead of focusing that energy worrying about everybody else, focus it on you. Focus it on what structures and habits you can put in place to make sure that you're working every day a little bit closer to your goal. One last thing on that as well is do definitely spend that time to get it right. It can feel really easy to want to jump straight in with heavy weights because you want to catch up to somebody else, but really spend that time to actually master the form and master the basics, even if it means that your progress is only 10% versus somebody who's just piling on the weight and their weights go up 60%. It's better that your form is right. It's better that the base is right. You're going to be getting more out of the exercise, and ultimately you're not going to be hurting yourself or anything else. Videos are incredible. Watch form videos, practice, and film yourself as well, because then you can watch it back. It can just be for you. You don't have to post it anywhere. Watch it back and just have a look where you might be going wrong or where you could improve. Okay, have you ever struggled with over exercise, restriction, or binge eating? Okay, so I have never struggled with over exercising, although I definitely, before I started this journey, struggled with a really toxic relationship with exercise, just seeing it as a way to burn calories, focusing on how much there was to burn, and just basically doing things that I hated because I felt like I was punishing my body. It was not a good place to be. But no, I don't think that I've ever over exercised. When it comes to restriction and binging though, I've definitely been there. I definitely got caught in a really nasty binge and kind of restrict cycle where Monday to Friday I would be classic girl on a diet, salad, soups, shakes, you name it, and then I'd restrict myself of everything that I really loved and really be under fueling myself, and then come the weekend would be, you know, just eating everything in sight because I'd restricted myself so much, number one, but also deprived myself of things that I love, which ultimately just makes you crave them even more. So yes, I've definitely been in a unhealthy place with food before, and just feel very happy that I've managed to turn that mindset around. Okay, where do you tend to store fat, and how do you stay motivated when that area is slow to budge? Now, everybody stores fat differently. Everybody has a different genetic makeup. We are all made to look slightly different, which means we all hold fat in different places, grow muscle in different places, and just everything is different for everybody. What I would say for me is that I naturally am pretty lean on my upper body. I don't hold a lot of fat in my arms. I don't hold particularly much fat around my waist section, but I do hold most of my fat in my lower body, particularly in my glutes and in my thighs, kind of like the upper part of my legs. That's totally unique to me. You might be the complete opposite to that, okay? What I would say is that you can't spot reduce areas of fat, okay? You probably already know that, but there is no magic pill or magic exercise that is suddenly gonna blast fat from the one area of your body that you really want to get rid of it, okay? Fat loss is only going to occur through being in a calorie deficit, and ultimately it's part of accepting that that is the way you are, okay? We are all different shapes and there is nothing wrong with any of our shapes, okay? Part of this is embracing that that's you, and you're working on your healthy, happiest, strongest you, whatever that looks like, and that looks different on everybody, okay? And I also think that if you are predisposed to holding body fat in a particular place and your goal is to try and get rid of it, the chances are you are going to have to go into a pretty uncomfortable body fat percentage to get there. And in my opinion, the quality of life and the happiness definitely does not outweigh just the the pure effort to try and change just your natural body shape and some of the things that you're naturally more predisposed to. Okay, how do you deal with days when you are completely unmotivated? Let me just remind you that everybody gets these, okay? We all get days where we're not motivated. Nobody is motivated all the time. But one of the things that really helps me is taking the pressure off. So like I said earlier, removing that pressure that every day is going to be good and every day is going to be perfect, and just letting it be what it is and giving your all. You can't give what you don't have, okay? So if you've only got 10% to give today, that's all you're going to give, but that's better than nothing, and you're still consistently showing up. And those small commitments, those small habits, those small actions, they all add up to that bigger goal, okay? So remind yourself of that next time you're beating yourself up for having a bad workout or not being totally motivated. Those days still count because you've still shown up. Another thing that I really like to do is to leave myself a note on my phone, okay? I've had the same one from the beginning of my journey, and I basically just wrote on my phone why I'm doing this. Why I'm doing this, what the bigger goal is, what this journey is all about for me, okay? It sounds totally cheesy, but honestly, every time I'm doubting myself, every time I'm just sat in the car outside the gym thinking, I don't want to go in there, I open it up, I have a read, and it just makes me feel so centered and so motivated because it just reminds me of the bigger picture. Okay, this is going to be final question. Did you ever fall off the fitness wagon and have to get back on again? How did you do it? Okay, I'm going to be real with you. Honestly, no. But the reason why is because I stopped thinking of it as this wagon that you get on and off, okay? Let go of that idea that it is something that you do and you start and stop. It's not. It's a lifestyle, which means it is long term for the duration of your life, okay? It's not a quick fix. It's not a tiny thing that just happens and then you move on with life. It's part of your life, okay? That means sometimes it's going to be bumpy, sometimes it's going to be tough, sometimes you're going to have to take detours in directions you don't want to go, okay? Look at the bigger picture and just recenter yourself and remind yourself of that, because that is the way to unpick that mentality of kind of being all or nothing. And yeah, like I said about consistency and that pressure, stop being so obsessed on it being perfect and you being all in or nothing at all. Just think of it as every day is what it is. It's one step closer to your goal. It is slowly building up habits. You're always learning. There's always going to be another goal. And I guarantee you, when you stop adopting that all or nothing mentality, you will be much kinder to yourself and see much better long-term results. Okay, I feel like this video has been 10 million years long, so I'm sorry about that, but there were honestly so many questions and I wanted to try and actually delve into the juicy details. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I'm actually trying to be consistent with a Wednesday and a Sunday upload, so let me know if you are down with that, and make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss the next video coming at you on Sunday, and I will see you guys then.